Hi there, Professor K here. I'm going to discuss Introduction to Rhetoric, the Art of Argument and Persuasion. This is the classical system of persuasion for arguments, and in college you write argumentative essays. So we want to think about where we begin with this and the system of persuasion. American universities participate in the academic tradition of classical Greece, and the canon of literature looks at various types of arguments. We'll begin by talking about rhetorical design. So in the classical system, we have four main considerations. The aim of the piece, which is knowing your goal, the audience, knowing who's reading it or who's watching it, the purpose, what are you trying to do, and the medium. And this word, the medium, is the same as the word for media, which you guys talk about all the time, right? Social media. An extension of classical persuasion or rhetoric is included in this idea of medium. So we're using the medium of writing in college papers. And this is important. We had the medium is the message. Marshall McLuhan, who was a 20th century philosopher and author, had talked about the medium as the message, meaning what you see is often the message, or what you read is the message. So this means that in the college classroom, you're mostly using the medium of essay writing, and it has certain rules. Your audience is, of course, everyone in the college, and anyone who's ever been a college student, and anyone who's ever been in the academy at any point in time. So you're joining a very large conversation, and you'll be responding to what others say. And what you have to say now is just as valid as any professor or graduate student or undergraduate. In this next slide, you can see that there are three major rhetorical appeals. They fall into three main areas: the pathos, the logos, and the ethos. And when these come together, they form the rhetorical argument. So the pathos is about things that are beyond our control, mainly emotional responses. In this example, on the next slide, you can see there's a bird slicked in oil. And this was used by David Sirota in a paper which is discussing environmental impacts and how we need to protect wildlife and the environment. So you can see that this might generate some feelings. Notice that he says in this essay, putting the I in the environment, David Sirota uses descriptions of the birds injured in the Gulf Coast oil spill as an emotional appeal. So if you're writing a paper and you're trying to convince people to protect the environment, that is a good example of a pathos appeal. The next slide is also a pathos appeal, right? It elicits a kind of reaction from us. The picture brings up feelings for the audience. So if I talk about this without any statistics, it's just a feeling. Credible and scientific evidence is the logical appeal. This is called the logos. Now in high school, you were asked to do this. And in college also, right, we ask you to respond to these logical assignments. So you can see this, right? We ask you to use a works cited and respond to these pieces which were assigned to you, which were sometimes logical evidence or research or opinion, but has information that is statistical. So that's the logical appeal. So if we go back and we look at this, notice that it says credible scientific evidence and support, relevant information. It could be something like this. Here is a statistical chart which shows information on obesity rates. Here are the rates and the years, 1980, 1990, 2000, 2010. And notice that the chart is from the cdc.gov. So that's something that we can think of, the .edu and the .gov. So these .edu, .gov websites or articles can make your writing more authoritative. When facts and emotions come together, students are writing an ethical appeal. Ethics are the acceptable standards of a society. So again, you want to know your audience. When you are arguing, it's good to know what set of principles your audience shares. So if you're speaking to gun enthusiasts, you probably will not persuade them to give up their weapons or support gun control laws. Putting these facts and feelings together is the art of persuasion, which is argument and rhetoric. College English is about using rhetorical design to form these arguments. If we look at the next slide, here's a statistic that says information about beef in Costa Rica and the rainforest. So this comes together as an ethical appeal because the loss of the rainforest, 83% of the rainforest, the statistic shows how this information is strengthened in the ethical appeal. You're using a fact to support your argument. In the next slide, we see a group of young people, and there's some information down here about sugary drinks and soda. And you can see from that the ethical appeal is there also, right? So we have this image of these young folks that are supposed to be healthy, but if they continue to use these products and drink this high fructose corn syrup, then it contributes to obesity. The photo elicits a feeling, and the statement appeals to our ethics. Okay, let's look at the next one. I'm going to go down. Here's an argument about veganism. So the student is saying, each of us must follow our own conscience. But if you want to help protect the environment, you'll continue to learn more about being a vegan and join me in spreading the word. We can see that the student is appealing to this idea of like, don't you want to protect the environment? And I think we all want to protect the environment. So it's kind of a shared concept. Okay. All right. Wait, where are the slides? Okay, here we go. Let's go to the next one. Here's one that has a photograph, which is going to give us an emotional reaction, and then a statistic, which the two things together form the ethical argument. Think about what the argument might be. That bullying is not something that we should do, right? So each of these examples shows some pathos and then some logos. These two things come together to make the ethical argument. We can spot this when we see a car ad at holiday time with a big bow on the car and the happy family celebrating. And really what's happening is the advertiser is trying to get us to purchase a car. Corporations use these techniques of rhetoric, and so do politicians. But when you think about it in essay writing, it can be difficult to spot. So let's look at the example of the veganism again. Cows, so it says, when we're looking at it in essay writing, cows are among the world's greatest producers of methane. And then if you read the rest of that slide, we start to wonder how we are choosing to have these animals make the environment more difficult. So becoming a vegan would mean there would be less pollution and less gas emissions. The student is arguing. And the thing is, there's an arguable thesis that we should become vegan. Now, you probably disagree with that if you really like to eat meat. So that's the whole thing about the arguable thesis. You can also find information for the other side that would disagree with the student's thesis. And later on in the semester, we're going to talk about how you find something that might disagree with your thesis and address it in your paper as well. All right, so let's review. We can see that we have these different appeals. And, and what we do is we learn to write with this in mind. So as you're writing, you start to think, okay, I want to have logical information, empirical data, scientific evidence, studies, findings, and things that we might find in the library articles that you're given. We also want to have some kind of emotional thing, right? Painting a picture for your readers, saying something about your own experience, anecdotal information. You know, the way a politician might say something like, you should vote for me because my wife drives a simple car, or you should vote for me because I live in a steel mill town and I am common just like you, or you should vote for me because I'm a billionaire and that means that I'm a winner. So this kind of emotional thing can come into your paper. It's very similar, but we want to bring it all together so that we're forming the most ethical argument. When the logical and the feelings come together, the argument is ethical, and appealing to someone's sense of commonality is how you might change someone's mind. And common essays in college are about balancing the logical and the emotional to form an ethical argument. Professor Bokener wrote a great sheet about why these appeals are important, and that's going to be in the content area also. So take a look and see how effective rhetorical design is. Remember to keep writing. We're going to be doing argumentative essays for the rest of your semesters, the rest of the time that you're in college. This is the foundation of college writing. So good luck and keep going. Bye.